The Leah Renee Podcast.
I love it, I love it, I love it!
Well, guess what? There's stuff you can do to make it not be so awful.
We going on Drax. Sclouts.
I have a crush on every
A low point of my life. I mean, things were bad.
You're a nut job. You're eating bags.
Heyo, I'm back from my little mini Euro tour, enjoying a beautiful spring in Philadelphia. I hope you like that little intro I made. What do you think? Is it weird? I think it is. Did you understand some of the references? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a bit much, but I thought this podcast could use a little zhuzh up, and I went for it. I had a lovely 2-week trip over 7 different European cities. It was so fun. I'm not sure if you want to hear about my trip. I've wondered if talking about your travel experiences is like talking about your kids. No one wants to hear it. It's always more interesting to you than to others. So maybe I won't do too much on it, just a little recap. Initially, I booked my Glasgow Comedy Festival show, and then I built the rest of the trip around that. So I ended up going to Dublin, Cork, London, Cardiff, Glasgow, Copenhagen, and Bristol. Dublin probably felt the most magical because that's where my mom lived for so long. It felt fun to walk through the streets, and I was very wanky about it because I listened to U2 and Sinead O'Connor and the Cranberries as I walked through Dublin because it just felt like the thing to do. My gigs were all in Temple Bar, which is a really touristy part of Dublin. And sadly, I didn't get to hang out with my friends as much as I hoped because everybody else there was at work, as opposed to when I go to Edinburgh Fringe, everyone is there doing shows or there to see shows. So there's much more of a summer camp kind of vibe at a festival than when you just go on a little tour like I did. That was a little bit of a disappointment because I really thought I would have some late night crack. This, of course, is the Irish type of crack, not the Philly type of crack. Although I think I could have found the Philly type of crack in Dublin too if I wanted. I loved overhearing people's conversations. I really am a sucker for the Irish accent. I just love it. But what's interesting is on the whole trip, I didn't really even write. Normally do my morning pages every morning, but I think because I was so overstimulated, I just like to take everything in. I didn't feel like creating anything because it was almost like my mind was creating so many things during the day that when it came time for me to write or do anything like that, it was just like, nope, not interested. So I had hoped, I think in the last podcast I said I was going to try to get some interviews in. Let me tell you something. It is so hard to ask people to do podcast interviews. Also, the opportunity didn't really present itself. Like I would show up for a show and then it's loud there. So what are they someone's going to stay till 2 a.m. doing a podcast? No. And then trying to get people during the day was difficult. I had a really hard time navigating the Dublin bus system. And sadly, the person that I was the most excited to get together with, I missed my meetup because I got stuck at Kilmainham jail. I lost track of time and then couldn't figure out how to take the right bus. And by the way, the bus system also a bit dodgy, kind of hard. Sorry, Dublin, I love you, but woo, the bus system. Maybe I will share with you the 2 times I recorded on the entire trip, and it was at the very beginning when I was still optimistic and fresh. Actually, not even that fresh because the first recording was at the airport, and then the second recording was late night after a gig on a Dublin bus. The other thing I managed to record, this is some ambient noise from a lovely little pub in Cork. If you don't hear the sound of people talking, drinking, and trad music being played, then it was unsuccessful and I've chosen some other track. I really loved Cork. I knew that I would because everybody said it was great, but it's such a beautiful city and the people there are very friendly. I was very happy to just wander around the streets at night. Cork was great. And I got to do a fun little comedy club there called City Limits. And the booker was very kind to me and I loved meeting the other comedians. We stayed afterwards and the club owner treated us to pizza and it was so fun. I also tried a drink called gunpowder, I think. I think it's an Irish gin. Anyways, it was quite nice. Gin is nice actually. I quite like gin. I actually really like gin. I like the different flavored gins you can get. There's one that I get when I'm in Scotland that is violet, not violent, violet like the flower, and it's purple, and that has a really lovely taste. There's also a rhubarb and ginger gin that you can get over there that's also nice. So Dublin was great, Cork was great. Then I went over from Dublin to London. Now, I've been to London plenty of times, but it was a very odd shift to go from Dublin to London. London has at least 10 times the amount of people as Dublin does, so it felt a bit jarring. I go to New York City all the time, and New York is almost as big as Dublin. New York's population is comparable to London's. It was just this kind of shocking, kind of feeling getting into London, how tall the buildings are, how busy everything is, how long it takes to get places on the tube. When I book London gigs, I don't really look at where it is. I'm just like, it's London, but it's so massive that I don't take into account that the equivalent would be where I live in Philadelphia, like booking something in Center City and then something in Ardmore and then Media, Pennsylvania, and then Bucks County. Like it's a really big city. And I definitely felt that. I had a very fun gig my first night on a boat. It's called Rum Monkey is the name of the venue. And it's a comedy boat. It's docked. It's not sailing, but it does move back and forth, which is, it's kind of fun. And the bookers there were amazing. They did a great job selling out the show. Everybody was really fun. It was a very high energy room. I enjoyed going there and and especially meeting the comics. That's one of my favorite things about doing a showcase is that you get to meet so many new comics and just shoot the shit. And yeah, it's, yes, I did say shit because I don't want this to get marked as explicit. So I will make sure that the transcript says shit. But yep, I'm going back to my Mormon roots of having fake swear words, shoot the shiz. Maybe I'll start saying that. I was in London for a few days and got to meet up with friends and do some gigs there, which was great. And then I took the train to Cardiff. That was a fun train ride. And an added bonus, Wales were playing Bosnia for a World Cup qualifier that night. So the train had a lot of Bosnians on it, which was fun because I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my husband served his Mormon mission in Croatia, and I've been to both Croatia and Bosnia and Slovenia as well. We did not make it to Serbia or Montenegro or the other former Yugoslavia countries, but it was nice to say Dobro večer, which means good evening, where's the bathroom? So it was fun to enter Cardiff city center and see a bunch of people with Bosnian flags draped over their shoulders. And, in case you're wondering, Bosnia did win, which made it kind of weird. After the show, I went out to some bars and there were a lot of sad-looking old men wearing Welsh jerseys, drowning themselves in a pint of Carlsberg. Actually, I don't know what the stereotypical beer for Cardiff would be. Carlsberg is actually Danish, and there was a lot of that when I went to Copenhagen, which I'm getting ahead of myself because that's a little bit later in the tour, but Cardiff was great. I love the Welsh accent. And to be honest, the thicker Welsh accents are actually quite difficult to suss out. Sandro Ford was the host of the show that night at the Glee Club, and he legitimately speaks very fast, but he also has a Welsh accent. I don't know if it's a Valleys accent. I know there's so many regional accents in the UK, but I had to really focus in. I think that might be another reason why I get exhausted when traveling, because the accents change so much that I'm really having to watch the person's mouth and try to drown out background noise to really hear what everybody's saying. Cardiff was great. I'd love to go back. I woke up early the next morning and took a train to Glasgow. And that was a fantastic rail journey. Oh, I love a train ride. I think That's what I want to do as a vacation. I want to get some kind of unlimited rail pass where I don't even have to book tickets. I just show up, I get on the train. That's my dream life. Just go somewhere and think, this is a cute station. I'll go walk around here. Get off, walk around the city. That's actually what I did for my birthday when I was in England. I took a train and just hopped on and hopped off. I'm not sure I was allowed to do that. Sometimes they're okay with it if it's off peak hours, blah, blah, blah. But that's one version of me living my best life would be unlimited rail journeys. It was actually really sunny for a lot of the trip, which I didn't expect, especially because I spent months trying to find a truly waterproof coat that looked nice and not like I was going hiking. But I loved the trip from Cardiff up to Glasgow. I got to see a lot of the UK, and it was fun to pass by cities that I used to live in. We went past Stafford. I lived there for a couple of months. We passed Penrith, which was the closest kind of bigger city to where we lived in Cumbria, and it was great. So Glasgow Comedy Festival, I'm going to be honest with you, I was not good at selling tickets, and it was a noon show. So the crowd was pretty light. I'm not going to pretend I'm something that I'm not. I do not have a big fan base in Glasgow, but I'm glad I got to do it, especially because my friend Hannah came and brought her son, and we were able to go out to lunch afterwards, which was fun. And my friend Zoe, who graciously let me stay in her very beautiful home. I got to hang out with her kids and her dogs and her husband, and she's a really good cook and made a really nice dinner. And it was nice to be in a home with a family and not just checking in and out of hotels or sleeping on friends' couches and the different ways that I travel. Glasgow is a lot bigger than I remember it. I went there in 2002. And I mean, I was so young at the time and just taking it all in, but it's actually prettier than I thought it would be, probably because I watched the show Still Game, which it kind of shows like the worst of what Glasgow can be. So Glasgow was fun. Then I had a very early morning flight to Copenhagen, which was kind of chaotic because I had a layover in Amsterdam, but you had to go through customs and wait in line and get your passport stamped. So it was pure pandemonium because there were people who had to get to their gate in like 10 minutes and they're waiting in this long line. I actually got a stamp in my passport in Amsterdam, which is very interesting because I haven't got a stamp in my passport since 2016. That was the last time I got a stamp, and that's when I went to China. So I guess you could say I was in Amsterdam for about an hour. Then off to Copenhagen, and it is everything they say it is, okay? It's clean, it's beautiful, the people are pretty vanilla, to put it. I mean, they're gorgeous, but they're not really a lively bunch. They're all super hot, and there are bikes everywhere, and even the toilet seats have sleek, modern design. I loved the design vibes in Copenhagen. It was so great. And I'm happy to report the comedy shows that I did there were fantastic. The crowds there were amazing. I had heard so much about Scandinavians and how dry they are. I mean, I did just say they were basic, but the ones that come to the comedy shows aren't. Oh man, the show I did the second night there was phenomenal. Everybody out that night was there to have a good time, and I really, really enjoyed it. Because I had such a short time there, I didn't actually see a lot of stuff. I just wandered around the city because it was so beautiful and fun to just explore that I didn't end up seeing Tycho Brahe, or there was a church that I thought I would see, very cool Danish design. And I just ended up wandering around. I actually wandered onto a military base, like some barracks, that is oddly open to the public. So it's kind of weird because I thought it was maybe a museum or something. And I started walking towards one of the buildings and somebody stopped me and they're like, "I'm sorry, can I help you?" And I'm like, "Is this a museum?" I don't know what I said, but he was like, "This is military housing." I was like, "Oh, my bad." But such a cool spot. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't remember what it was called. And everything there is in Danish. They do have stuff in English, but I found that having Danish first, English second used up a little bit more of my bandwidth. But honestly, I had experienced that most of the trip because when you get into Ireland, the signs are in Gaeilge and then English. Also in Wales, same thing. I was kind of used to it, but I did feel awful when I would go into a coffee shop and just start speaking English. I wanted to say something Danish and not just assume. I mean, of course, everybody there does speak English, but Americans are just so awful. I didn't want to be part of that. But then I asked my friend, I'm like, how do you say hello in Danish? She's like, hi. I'm like, oh man, can't, like some buenos dias or something. I think when I go back, I'll learn how to say good morning or good evening or afternoon, just so that I have something to say. And then they can hear my accent and go, oh, okay. They could also just see that I'm not hot and gorgeous and be like, she's definitely not Danish. Now, I know some of my friends might say, no, Leah, you're good looking. Maybe by Philly's standards, but I felt like a bridge troll when I was in Copenhagen. Real shiz. All the comedians there were so sweet, and I'm really eager to go back to Copenhagen. There's also a lot of places I could do comedy in the Netherlands, which is another spot that I didn't think was too keen on comedy, but there's clearly a need for it. I'm considering doing the Women in Comedy Festival in Manchester, England in October. And if I go to that, I will probably pop over to Amsterdam for a few days and do some shows there. And maybe Stockholm, because I have a friend there and I've always wanted to go, but I'm not sure what the deal with Stockholm is. What's the deal with Stockholm? To be very Jerry Seinfeld about it. I left Copenhagen, flew to Bristol, which I really liked. I really liked Bristol. A lot of people, including myself, mix up Bristol and Brighton. And honestly, there are some similarities. Both are very lefty, progressive kind of places. But I would say Brighton attracts a lot of the gay community. And I think Bristol attracts more hipsters. They're similar, but Brighton has more glitter. Bristol has more kombucha. And that gig that I did in Bristol was brilliant. They were so fun. That's what I can't get over. Everybody was great. I had a fantastic time at every single show. And it renewed my faith in stand-up comedy because sometimes I'm a bit of a brat about it. I really like writing. I really like being alone. But those 2 weeks on the road doing shows, I'm like, I actually really like this too. I like them equally. That's what I'm saying. I'd be happy to do nothing but this podcast. It would be so fun. And then I would also be happy to do nothing but stand-up. So I don't know if it's a good idea to split my time between the two, but here we are. That's what I'm doing. I wish I had some interesting stories or anecdotes to share with you. But as I reflect on the trip, the things that stand out to me are the fun conversations with comedians before and after the shows, talking to audience members, and just, I don't know, just having just good human interaction. In fact, one of my favorite moments of the trip was the lunch that I had in Richmond with my gal pals. These two ladies are absolute kindred spirits. They came to my show in Edinburgh last year, and we were fast friends. We talked. Oh, I've mentioned them on the podcast before. These are my lesbian friends that are getting married in July. I've tried to convince my husband that it is a necessity that I go to their wedding for so many reasons. But having spent the afternoon with them, it just is heightened. I love these two women so much. I laughed as hard at that lunch as I do in a clown workshop. Clown workshops are the only things that really tickle my funny bone. Clown workshops are so awkward and so difficult, and everybody feels the same way. Everyone is struggling. It's like boot camp levels of stress, but you're meant to release it with a laugh. The goal in clown workshops is to be an idiot, be the worst, most idiotic, inane, stupid version of yourself that you can find. And that's why it's so hard, because we're so conditioned to avoid being laughed at. And so to do a clowning workshop, you're having to figure out, how do I make people laugh at me? But I can't force it, because then they'll feel that. Like, one of the best things that could happen to you in a clown workshop is that your pants fall down. But they have to, oh, that reminds me. I don't want to ruin her joke in case you see her show. But Bethy Black is a comedian that I performed with at the Glee Club. And she had a joke about this guy who delivered her mail. And as he handed her the clipboard to sign, his pants fell down. Or, sorry, trousers. Not his pants. For my non-UK listeners, pants are underwear. Over there, trousers are pants. So yeah. I would have died. That's why sometimes I'm like, why do I even write jokes? That's the funniest thing that could happen. In fact, I have an idea that I'm considering testing out. I don't like the admin part of running comedy shows, but I do like being a control freak. So I have a theory that I want to test out. I have a couple venues that I've considered running a regular comedy show, but I think rather than trying to book a bunch of comedians, what if, as people are coming in, I have a projector screen up and it's just a bunch of funny videos back to back. I think that would be hilarious. My mom was saying she read some book recently where the guy, I don't know if he was a doctor or something, he was giving scientific backing for the importance of laughter, something like 10 minutes a day. And it decreased people's tumor sizes or their blood pressure. There was some, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were measurable results from 10 minutes of good laughter a day. So I decided to go down a rabbit hole of very silly videos and made a running list of it. So I think what I might do is download all of them, put them into one file, and just play that before a show and see what the effect is. And these videos are all over the map. Some of them are dogs wearing shoes. There's a lady on a rope swing that falls off and her pants fall down. I was algorithmically targeted for a series of videos that were basically Jesus Easter fails. And I feel terribly about this because it seems blasphemous, but at the same time, this wasn't actually Jesus, but there's one guy who, oh my gosh, he's tied to a cross, but then he falls off of it into the crowd. I'm such a terrible person, but why does that make me laugh? Why am I awful? Somebody would say it's because of your religious trauma. No, I like videos of people falling down. I hope that they're not hurt, and I don't watch videos where there's blood or you can see a person's bone breaking, but just a good video of someone trying to go the wrong way on an escalator and it going badly. I just can't get enough of that stuff. And I've explained that's clown. That's what I call clown, is clown. That's clown. You didn't mean for it to happen, but it's hilarious. It's the human condition. We've all got one foot on a banana peel. That's just how life is. I don't know why that's such a great release for me to see people being dragged across their lawn by their oversized dog. But that just really does it for me. I love a good fail video. I especially love when somebody is trying to be professional and hold it together. For example, news bloopers are amazing. There's one in particular that I would like to show at a vintage YouTube night. It's a news reporter trying to look cool at some skateboarding event. And she says, I've been working on my ollie. And she tries to do a trick on the board and it does not work. But oh, I love her for trying. Whatever happened to that lady? Anyway, I love a good fail. I love the little kids interrupting the dad's North Korea interview on national television. I love that stuff. I'm sorry that a lot of this turned into travel recap stuff, but maybe to wrap it up with a bit of woo-woo stuff. When I got home from the trip, I was exhausted. It was almost like I didn't allow myself to get truly exhausted on the trip because I just had to keep plugging away. But as soon as I was home, I felt like sleeping a lot. Realized that I might be experiencing some spectrum-related burnout stuff. But after a few days, I wanted to start getting back into the flow of things. It was nice to get back off Instagram. I did put Instagram on my phone for the trip so that I could post stories and could DM bookers and follow people that I met and post stories from the trip so that there's some kind of proof out there in the world that I am a working comedian, that yes, I get booked on shows in different places, please book me. But when I got home, I deleted it, and it was really nice to have some quiet time. But the weird thing is, I quit my day job right before the trip. The whole time I was gone, and when I got home, I was so overjoyed to know that my time, at least some of it, was going to be my own again. Because I had been working this side job, it just used up so much of my creative energy, and I felt so limitless and inspired. There were so many things that I could do now. If I wanted to go further with my screenwriting class, I could do that. I could do this podcast. I could book a place to film a special in the fall. There was just all these things that I could do. And I found myself grinding my gears with all these different ideas. So I returned to our favorite normie, Cal Newport, and listened to a few of his podcasts about deep work and tried to figure out, where do I invest all of this creative energy and enthusiasm into? I will be honest with you, I don't think Cal Newport has, at least I haven't found, a really good step-by-step video or illustration of what he talks about with deep work and time blocking. I'm sure someone out there has one and I just haven't found it, but I wanted to feel less adrift. So I believe it's the first thing that he says to do is to create a values document. By the way, Cal Newport, he's an academic and I think quite left-brained. So the terms he uses for things feel very Excel spreadsheet developer kind of language. So I have a hard time remembering exactly what he calls stuff because he doesn't give them cute names. But you sit down and you have a deep look into what you really value. This caused me to wonder, okay, well, what is a list of values? Is world peace a value or an idea or hard work or compassion? I wasn't really sure. So I wanted a list of values. And I thought if I had a list, then I could kind of circle the ones that I like and then use that to make my values document. Now, your values document is going to inform how you spend your day because it's kind of a bummer to invest yourself so heavily in something that you don't deeply care about. It's I believe Thomas Merton was the one who has the quote, climbing a ladder and getting to the top only to realize you've leaned it on the wrong wall. That's one of the reasons that I've been hesitant to really go whole hog on this podcast, because I definitely have the ability to put out a podcast episode every week. But when I look at the lifestyle that would go with that, is that really what I want? It's almost like I don't want to make a podcast every week and grind really hard at it. And then at the end of a year go, you know what? I actually don't really like doing this. Why did I do that in the first place? Is it because I thought I would get money from it? Because apparently money is not a really great value or motivator to have. That's been one of the reasons that I'm twiddling my thumbs a bit, because I love stand-up comedy, but because it is a live experience, you have to physically be in that space, which means I'm gone a lot. But what are the things that I like about comedy? I like making people laugh. I like connecting people. And honestly, I could do that with a podcast. I have Blind Boy envy because he has a weekly podcast that I really enjoy, and then he does them live and has guests. Let's say I make $1 million a year, and I can either do that doing a live podcast once a month or coming up with an entirely new hour of stand-up comedy every year. I'd probably pick the podcast, to be honest. Comedy's fun, but it's difficult because a lot of the general observations that you would make have already been made by a lot of people, so it's not that original. But then if you talk about yourself, that feels kind of wanky. Honestly, I feel it's much more difficult to be vulnerable and honest without also being a bit edgy. So I tried to look at what is it that I love about doing stand-up comedy? What are those elements? What do I value in the art of stand-up comedy? And then that can help me inform where I spend the bulk of my time, energy, and efforts. So I looked up this values quiz, and I've got to say, it was a really good quiz because most personality tests that I found piss me off because when you take those tests, you're usually trying to prove to yourself that you're the person that you think you are. And they ask these really leading questions that obviously you don't want to answer like a jerk. Something like, spending time with people I love matters a lot to me. Strongly agree, mostly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Who's going to strongly disagree with that? Like Act 1 Scrooge and Grinch? No, that's not a good question. I think questions about how you actually live your life shows the personality. Let's say that you think spending time with friends is one of your highest values. That's what you believe about yourself. Okay, how many of your friends' birthdays have you gone to over the last year? What did you do for your birthday? Did it include having friends over? Then yes, that is an important part of your life. But if you sat at home alone watching a show, then maybe you like spending time with friends, but it's not showing up in the things you value and how you're spending your time. It's like that quote, show me how you spend your time and I'll show you what you love. So I took this values quiz and it was cool because it was this list of maybe 100 different values and you had to pick only 10 from those. And then in kind of a March Madness bracket sort of thing, they went head to head and you'd have to choose one over the other. Then it told you what the top 5 were after you did this. But the nice thing was it would give you a question to accompany it. So an example would be you value family and you value honesty. You could ask for a scenario to help you pick, and it would say something like your teenage son cheated on a very important exam at school and you know about it, do you report it to the school, jeopardizing his future opportunities? Or because you value your son and you want him to do well, you don't say anything? To me, that's a perfect example of, do you value honesty or family? I actually think it's better to value the honesty because then you're setting an example for your kid. But what kind of scenario would somebody value family? I just kept thinking of the mafia. The mafia is like, with family. By the way, I've been working on a mafia joke recently. Okay, here's the other big announcement. I got home, I was trying to find inspired direction about the next few months in comedy and how I wanted to spend all these extra hours that I had freed up for my schedule. And the very unexpected answer was to do more general audience comedy, also known as clean comedy, which I don't like that term. General audience comedy. Oh, lordy. But y'all, it is so much more profitable. That's the thing. Clean comedy is usually like you're saying it's PG, that there's no sex or swearing in it. Those are the two main things. But what's weird about clean comedy is people who book those shows, it's often corporate or church/conservative people who want clean comedy. And the problem with that is both of those groups are most likely going to have a strong opinion about political material. Either that group skews a certain way or that group doesn't want anything political to be said. So that's why clean comedy is weird, because I can make fun of Trump in a very clean way, but I'm not going to get booked for corporate gigs or for church gigs because there's a good chance that there will be a lot of Trump supporters in the audience that will find it offensive. In fact, more offensive and off-putting than a sex joke would be. So I went through all my material and found all of my clean stuff and through my notes to find all these little ideas and premises that I had just jotted down, but I hadn't actually written a joke for. And yeah, one of them happens to be about the mafia. So my fear is that somebody else has done the joke already, and I don't have the heart nor the gumption to look up if Sebastian Maniscalco has done a similar joke. That's also why it's been fun to have no limits comedy, because I can talk about eating your placenta because there's not a lot of comedians that have that. And I actually ate my placenta. No, I didn't eat my placenta. Sadly, I wanted to. I mean, I didn't want to eat my placenta, but I wanted the nutrients from it. Have I told this story before? Basically, when I had my first, I wanted to have it encapsulated. They dehydrate it, turn it into powder, and then they put it into little capsules. And then you take the capsules like a supplement, which I was like, hey, that sounds great. But they were going to charge me like $300 for it. And I'm like, eh. So instead, I just took a supplement and something called Floridix, which is some kind of iron thing. But to be honest, placenta would have been better. And I missed my opportunity because I don't even know how you get your hands on a human placenta, but it's good stuff. I mean, it's not tasty, but it's good for you. Okay. Have I grossed everybody out? See, this is not general audience comedy. People do not want to hear about placentas. They don't, because I've told jokes about placentas and they turn on me. The whole crowd is like, ew, gross. I'm like, whatever. All the other mammals do it. Wow, I'm really going to die on that hill, that placenta-covered hill. Placenta is also just a funny word to say. In fact, when in high school, there was a girl in our school named Jacinta, and my brother used to call her Placenta. My brother. Oh, family's important to me. Anyway, I don't even think I finished the thing about the values quiz. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but do you want to know what my value thing was? And I'm going to tell you, this did not help me plan. This did not help me with my time blocking, time management plan to have it based on my values. At least I don't think, because I was really honest with my answers, and it's very different since I left the Mormon church. So according to this quiz, my top values were independence, so like self-reliance and self-sufficiency, authenticity, which they define as truthfulness and genuineness, uniqueness, being particularly remarkable or unusual, variety, frequent change, diversity, and number 5, peace, calm, and freedom from conflict. That's what came up on my values quiz. I think that's one of the difficult things about the values quiz, is that oftentimes you've already made a decision to show that you value something, like family, for example. I'm married, I have kids, obviously I value them, but that's not a goal that I have. I achieved the goal of getting married. I achieved the goal of gestating and delivering humans. I did that. So I'm not really striving for that. It's just something that I'm maintaining. I'm not really striving for that. It's something that I have. And the aim now is to have gratitude for them and love for them. But the values quiz almost felt like it was more aspirational and maybe a sign that I'm really craving things like independence, because being in relationship with these 4 other people in my life makes a big impact on things that I say yes or that I say no to. A perfect example would be this trip. I don't have that many crazy stories because I can't die. I have 3 small people who would be devastated if something happened to me. If I died, if I were injured as well, if I were in a wheelchair, that would affect our lives. We would have to move. It would affect so many things. So do I want to go out and have a good time and be a risk-taking crazy? Of course. But I will seriously mess up the lives of my family members if I do something like that. My values quiz results felt much more like things that I'm longing for than things that I actually have. Because even though family didn't come up as the number one thing, I still spend a heck of a lot of time with my family. It goes back to this show me where you spend your time and I'll show you what you love. So I'm not sure if somebody could make a values quiz that has to do with where you're actually spending your time. That's why I think the digital world is so nefarious, especially attention harvesting media, whether it be social media or video games or online gambling or dating apps, whatever it might be. If you're spending a lot of time on it, that's showing that you value it, even if you're not aware. I think I hoped in taking this that I would be able to get some intentionality in the way that I structure my days so that I don't look at the end of the week and go, oh man, I was going to record a podcast and I didn't. What did I end up doing? I dyed a bunch of sweaters neon yellow. Oh, well, but I do value that. But do I value it more than getting a podcast out? My purpose in taking this quiz was to help me develop a hierarchy that lines up with my aspirations. But apparently, my aspirations are to be alone, genuine, things changing all the time, and to have peace. You know what? I'm actually happy with this list. As I read it, I'm like, yeah, those are things that I think about all the time. The uniqueness thing is also interesting as a creative because before the internet was really useful and you could find a lot of stuff, it was easy to feel unique in a thought that you had or clothes that you wore or your particular style or taste in movies or music. It was kind of easier to feel like a weirdo or you were really unique. And now it's so easy to find online communities with thousands or even millions of people who feel the way that you do. And then we give it a cute name or a label. And now it doesn't feel that unique. And I think I run into that with comedy because I do want to be super unique. But then when I look at my friends in the creative industry who are really unique and really out there and don't have 3 kids, so they have more time to experiment and travel and be weird without it coming out of the time bank account. Some of my friends and people in the entertainment industry that are so unique and so creative, it's kind of crippling. I mean, I look at someone like Tim Robbins or Tim and Eric or Tim Minchin or Tim Burton. Basically anyone named Tim. Just kidding. I don't know why everyone's named Tim. Tim is a weird name. Tim, because I've just had to say it so many times around. Tim Tam Slam. Timony, Tim Taroo. Okay, enough. But what I'm trying to say is I can see the work of so many interesting, creative, unique people that sometimes rather than inspiring me, I sort of feel like, nah, they got this. Even this podcast, I'm like, what even is this? I'm a comedian. This should be a funny podcast, but uniqueness. So many comedians have podcasts where they're sitting on a couch with another comedian and they're just shooting the shiz. And that's their whole thing. And they get millions of followers. But I don't want to do that because that's what they're doing. So then I make this. I'm like, it's my podcast. It's a little bit woo-woo. It's kind of self-referential. It's just me kind of like, that's not interesting. I'm like, maybe it is. Is it unique? Is it unique to have a comedian Bill Burr has that. Bill Burr's is a monologue. I've actually never listened to Howard Stern, like a proper Howard Stern episode. I know of him and I've heard interview clips, but he usually has guests on. How many solo podcasts are there of just somebody rambling to themselves about all the creative people named Tim? Well, there's one thing I can be sure of about this podcast. I'm definitely doing this for the love of the game because I'm not sure this will ever have any kind of audience for it. And that's the thing. Creative people love to say, when I first painted my blah, 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 or I made this song, people told me it was crap. And, everybody told me I wouldn't succeed, but I did, meh. I'm like, yeah, but for every story of some weirdo that made it big, there are tens of thousands, if not millions, of other weirdos that, there's even I forget what it's called, but it's either an app or a website, and it will play you something from Spotify that has 0 listens. It's called like Discoverify or something. So for every Tim Minchin, there's a bunch of Joe Schmoes that never really made it. It's just, I think it's difficult. I think it's really difficult, especially in an attention economy, to have something that people like. And I don't know if people like this. Okay, is that a limiting belief? Is that, can I Byron Katie that? Is it true? Can I absolutely know that it's true, that it's hard to make it in this world? I don't know. I feel like I can. I feel like I can find the data. Has somebody, man. Oh, please, somebody get your master's degree in how many people still commit themselves creatively to doing something and they are perpetually losing money at it versus someone who actually got to make it a career. Because it seems like the people that make it as their career, every once in a while you'll get someone who pops off, like Tim Robbins, who's very silly and weird. It reminds me of an SNL skit from a few years ago where there was a lady who made like dog tutus, I think, dog dresses or mini skirts or something. And it was her dream, it was her passion, and she was an accountant or something, and she quit her job and she was dedicating herself full time to her art or whatever. I think it was a Shark Tank thing. And they were like, wait, you quit your job? And she was like, yeah, because, and they're like, you should probably get that job back. Like there's just, especially in America, we have a crippling love for rags to riches stories. And we love to tell people to believe in their dreams and to follow their dreams. And you know what? I do too. I watched The Greatest Showman on the airplane the last time I went over to England. And I gotta admit, I got goosebumps. I'm like, I believe in this. Even if my place burns down, I'm still gonna make stuff and I'm gonna cheer up the world and make them laugh. I think all you have to do to doubt the power of your dreams is go to local shows. Go find the ugly looking flyers at a coffee shop and then go to that event. And you're like, oh, so while there's a very small percentage of people that are able to do it to the extent that they can pay their bills, there are a lot of just freelance hobbyists out here. I'm okay doing it for the love of the game, but I'm married to somebody who isn't. My noble patron. That's what I call him, my noble patron. Have you seen Pride and Prejudice? That's what Mr. Collins calls Lady Catherine de Bourgh. She's this very obnoxious, wealthy lady who pays for his room and board, and he's just a brown noser. I'm sure I've talked about that before on the podcast about Van Gogh being Van Gogh because of Theo. His brother bankrolled his artistic life. And I think just had an appreciation or understanding for his brother's limitations and saw the beauty that he could create, even though his mental health made him unemployable. At that time, he saw that he had this gift. And honestly, as I've stepped away from the day job that I had, it has felt so good to not have that anymore. I feel like Anne Lamott. I don't feel like I'm employable. What if in like 5 years I'm applying for jobs or something and they do some background check and they're like, she just said she was unemployable. No, it's always felt so soul crushing to go into an office, to clock in, to have to sit there for a certain number of hours and then to clock out. I thought about it this morning when I was doing my morning pages. I'm like, God, am I unemployable? Like, can I actually not have an hourly job? I mean, I can to pay the bills in a desperate situation, but it's only a matter of time before I go stir crazy and just have to do my own thing, even if it's my own dog walking business. I don't like having a boss and a time clock and the same repetitive. That came up in my values thing. I value variety and I really don't do the 9-to-5 thing. A part of me dies. And I think what kept me in my previous job as long as it did was because I genuinely liked the people that I worked with. They were a lot of fun. I liked all the different animals coming in and I liked the people. That's been the element of all the jobs that I've had. I have not liked the job, but I've liked the people. So I just do it. But yeah, man, I just had that realization. Yeah, money isn't my highest value. I remember in high school, I got a job as a server at a steakhouse. And I specifically chose a steakhouse because it's more expensive, so I would get better tips. And I genuinely wanted to talk to people. I wasn't trying to get a good tip. I would be serving a table where they were Irish or something. And I'm like, Ireland, oh, and I'd start talking to them and I'd forget to put in their order. I genuinely like talking to people. So is podcasting really a good, I'm just talking to myself. I do like me. I like myself a lot. I know I was slagging myself off about not being as hot as Danish people, but whatever. I don't like myself because I think I'm hot. I like myself because my brain is fun. I don't get bored. I like to just sit and stare out the window. I'm good company. I think my internal dialogue is pretty good. I feel sad when I hear people say, and I just keep thinking, oh, you're so worthless and you shouldn't even try and you're gonna. I'm like, really? That's what it says inside your head? No. Mine's like, I will say the few times that I've tried weed edibles, that's also fun in my head. Like, oh, I'm hilarious up there. But I don't really need it. I mean, I haven't had a weed edible in so long. 420 is coming up. I could ask. I don't want to try anything crazy, though. I just like the sleepy, goofy ones. But again, the kids. See what I'm saying? Would I have loved to smoke weed when I was sure? Well, no, I didn't want to smoke weed when I was overseas because I don't want to do anything that jeopardizes my ability to go back. But yeah, am I a risk taker? For certain things, take the smart risk. That's something I learned when I worked for Old Navy. That was Gap Inc. They had this little card of words to live by that I actually thought were pretty good, and I still think of them today. One was own it, do it, done. Every difference makes a difference. And one was take the smart risk. I think this podcast is a smart risk. I think this is a smarter risk than smoking weed in Dublin. Yeah, I feel that. But what about the risk of a tiny bite of an indica edible on 420 just to celebrate? But see, then I would have to buy some. I have to go to New Jersey, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry that you had to be here for this. I promise that Can I promise that my other podcast episodes are going to be more interesting? Yes, they are. This is the beginning of season 2. I did want to do a recap, but I think what I'm going to do to have a little more structure to this show is that the coming episodes, I think I'm going to highlight one person or book and talk about that a little bit more in depth and why I like it. Kind of do deep dives on why I think they're interesting people. So I'm working on it, okay? I did my values quiz and it told me that I'm a transient person who just wants to try new things and not be tied down, which is why I've been married for almost 20 years and have 3 children. See what I'm saying? Like, the quiz and my life don't match up. Oh, and I think that's why I like this podcast, because it's like, this is my chance to, I don't know, to feel like I'm taking a risk. I'm taking a smart risk. I don't know. This is weird. Like, anybody could be listening to this. But you know what the truth is? If I sat next to you on a bus, I would say all this stuff. But if I were in a theater with 500 people, would I say? I probably would. That's the authenticity thing, the honesty. I'm like, I'm just being myself. I'm just saying what I'm thinking because it feels good. So many people... Yeah, the negative self-talk stuff that I hear people talk about, I'm like, yeah, that's sad. No, get it out there. Do the thing. Say it. Who cares? I don't know. This has been, I feel weird about this podcast. I don't know if that it's gone well. But whoever you are, I love you because you're a human being and we're all of great worth and lovable and worth loving no matter what, unless you're Donald Trump. Just kidding. That you're lovable and worth being loved. And I created an intro and an outro. So here's the outro. Thank you for listening to the Leah Renee podcast. If you'd like to help me grow the old-fashioned way, without having to bow to the likes of social media, visit my website, leahrenee.co. And as always,
Go to bed early, you doofus.